G'day Cephalon Collective, welcome to a brand new video in regards to Empyrean. So, Empyrean doesn't look to be terribly far off. In fact, I was lucky enough to be given a virtual tour earlier this week by Reb Ford and the team at Digital Extremes, so here's a look into what players can expect on release. Keep in mind that all of this footage is based on a work in progress, and is of course subject to change. Also note that this text is a write-up that was published on PowerUp. I've popped a link in the description below, so please make sure to stop by and give us some love there as well. For those unaware, Empyrean adds a large combat and flight-capable spaceship called a Railjack to Warframe, allowing players to truly experience more of the war in space vibe. However, not wanting to simply add a dogfighting mode, Empyrean provides a co-op space raiding experience for up to 4 players, with roles, micromanagement, ship damage, and even off-ship boarding. It's a massive expansion, virtually a whole new game on top of what is already a solid video game experience. And did I mention it would be a free upgrade to an already free-to-play game? Players can join any other player's Railjack from very early in the game. All they need to have acquired is their Arkwing, which is generally acquired from around Mastery Rank 2, about 10 or 20 hours into the game. After this point, the player can then join any other Railjack parties from the navigation menu, or of course by playing with friends or clanmates. Building a personal Railjack, though, does require the players to have progressed somewhat, at least to have completed the second Dream questline. They'll also need to be part of a clan with a dry dock and the requisite research completed. This will then kick off the Rising Tide quest, which will require the player to invest time, resources, and in-game credits to build their own ship, and this progress cannot be sped up by spending real-world money. All of that said, from what we've seen, it looks to be well worth the effort. The Railjack itself is gargantuan. Players can customize it in a number of ways. In terms of appearance, they can give it a name, place a decal, apply skins, adjust the amount of wear and tear, and apply their preference for colouring. However, Warframe is anything if not deeply customizable in a number of ways, and the ways in which Railjack can be tweaked are plentiful. Firstly, there are the Railjack components. These include shields, weapons, engines, and reactors, each of which can be replaced as the players progress, continually improving their Railjack. They can be researched via clan research, starting with Tier 1 components and working on up from there as each piece of research is completed. Alternatively, components can also be found while out on missions, before being repaired and applied to the ship. Of course, it should be mentioned that the higher tier componentry is only available in higher tier missions. These components will upgrade the ship's primary stats and change the way in which it fires, but let's face it, when it comes to customization, Warframe has always been about modding, and Empyrean is no exception. This brings us to avionics, which is essentially Railjack's version of modding. There are 3 different kinds of avionics: battle avionics, which are Railjack abilities, and in the demo DE showed off mods called Particle Ram and Void Hole. There are integrated avionics, which affect the base stats of the Railjack itself, and lastly, tactical avionics, which provide tactical, mission-based advantages, and the demo included the use of a Void Cloak. Each individual mod can be ranked up using a new resource called Avionic Endo, which can also be used to rank up the grid itself, and is acquired via Railjack mission rewards or by breaking down any unneeded avionics. However, the customization doesn't stop there, as Railjack brings with it a new form of player-based skill progression. Given Railjack is intended as a co-op activity, this new system provides a way for players to bring their experience with them as they join different Railjack groups. Referred to as intrinsics, this system allows players to earn both standard affinity, which is Warframe's terminology for experience, as well as intrinsic points as they progress through Railjack missions. These points can then be applied to one of 4 intrinsic roles. There's a pilot, gunner, engineering, or tactical. Applying these points will boost certain stats for the player in various areas and unlock specific skills and abilities as they go. If it sounds to you like a simplified skill tree, that's because it is. DE mentioned in the demo that ranking to 10 in all roles should take months, but of course we'll see what our dedicated Warframe community has to say about that. Note there will be a 5th intrinsic role that will be added at a later date, and this is called Command. This will unlock NPC crew members that can perform certain tasks aboard your Railjack in place of your friends. This includes repairs or offensive roles and will allow for true solo play. I'm sure many fans are excited about the potential that this will bring to the new mode. When Empyrean finally hits PCs, expect to find 3 new regions added to navigation. There's Earth Proxima, which is the starting area for all players and includes a free flight area in which to practice flying. There's Saturn Proxima, which was shown off during the demo, and the Veil Proxima. Each area will provide increasing levels of difficulty and will also be locked behind intrinsic requirements. The example used in the demo was that for the Saturn Proxima mission selected, players would need to be at least intrinsic 3 in any role in order to participate. Further, the different areas would provide different loot. Saturn Proxima, for example, will provide Tier 2 components, while Veil Proxima will provide Tier 3, demonstrating a very clear progression system. In addition, the Veil Proxima was said to be full of lore, so longer-term players should be chomping at the bit to reach this area. Missions themselves play out in a number of ways, but Smart Tenno will not start without preparing first. Before launching a mission, players can head down to the forge in their cargo bay and ensure they have an appropriate amount of payload. This is a new term that refers to specific resources that are required for the Railjack, including Revolite, which is required for repairs, Flux Energy for abilities, Dome Charges for the core power weapon, and munitions for ordnance. There is of course a maximum amount of each that can be brought into a mission, but I also expect that certain intrinsics will allow players to exceed this amount, although this is yet to be confirmed. Should players not have the required amount of resources, they will either need to farm them prior to starting their mission, or look to acquire them during, which may be risky. Of course, it's the gameplay itself that matters most, and this is where the majority of the demo was focused. That said, it feels almost as if there's not much to say on this, as you kinda need to see it in action to understand the intensity and chaos of what's going on. Of the 4 players, 1 player must pilot the ship, which of course means that they control the ship as it moves through space. They do also have access to a weapon in order to shoot down anything that comes across their reticle. 2 other players can access the weapons on each side of the ship, and the animation here, removing much of the ship from view to provide a suitable HUD, is extremely impressive. The 4th and final player then assumes a kind of gopher role, running around extinguishing fires and repairing damage, as well as forging payload and fighting off any boarding parties, although this did not occur in the demo. The mission showed required the group to take out 30 enemy fires and 5 cruise ships, which are larger, tougher ships that can only be taken out either by using dome charges or from the inside. And you heard that right, this is Warframe after all. In order to take out the cruise ships, players can access them in one of 2 ways. Firstly, by exiting the Railjack in their Arcwing, hence the initial requirement to have unlocked Arcwing, and they would then fly through space battling smaller ships on the way before entering the ship via a portal at the rear. Gameplay then switches to the Warframe we all know and love, as the player makes their way through the ship, fighting off enemy crew along the way. Here there are 2 options: destroy the reactor, or take command of the ship using it to take out more enemy fighters. Keep in mind that all of this is happening at the same time. On the ship, someone is still piloting, someone else is putting out fires, another player is shooting from the gunnery, and you're out there trying to commandeer an enemy vessel. Or perhaps 2 players are out trying to do this. Truly, it looks like a lot of fun. Hectic, chaotic, and stressful all the while, but a lot of fun nonetheless. It's easy to understand why DE stated that although Railjack can be played solo, it'll likely be too hard without the command intrinsic. In addition to all of this, any player at any time can bring up a tactical menu. This will allow them to do one of several things. They can spectate other players, give them orders, telling them to do repairs or make payload and so on, cast one of their allies' Warframe abilities, which is super cool, or, should the player have a high enough intrinsic, teleport about the ship. All of this will work alongside everything else that the team has worked to build over the last 7 years of Warframe's lifecycle. While not everything will be integrated perfectly, Digital Extremes is working towards that goal, mentioning that the Kuvalich system, which was added recently, will be expanded upon within Railjack at a later date, and that the open world areas will also be made to integrate with Railjack in some way. Clearly, Warframe is a labour of love, and although we still have a number of questions around the long-term viability of this mode, as well as how DE will look to bring all of these seemingly disparate ideas together into one cohesive whole, Empyrean looks like the kick to the butt that the game needed. Welcome to Warframe 2.0.